บ่รู้ก็ฉันมันยิ่งข้างหลังตายโอ้ยมันขอโทษไม่รู้ตัวที่ข้างไหนมึงหนูแลนนี้ตายไปตาย
Hi, I'm Kat, and today I have for you a word in Romanian, a horrific true crime case, and I will also be doing my makeup at the same time. So the word in Romanian for today is massacru. 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 Well done, guys, you just said massacre. I'm jumping in the middle of the Halloween season yet again because I really want to bring awareness to this horrific massacre which just unfolded a few days ago in Thailand. And I must warn you, it's not an easy one to listen to. I will also apologize in advance. There will probably be names that I will really mess up, and truthfully I don't mean any disrespect, but I will also be adding the same names on the screen as well. I don't have a lot of photos of the victims, and also out of respect to the victims I will not be sharing photos of the massacre with the bodies. If you do want to see these photos you can find them on Google, but quite honestly for my own sanity I won't be sharing them on here, as I will have to see them again and again when I research, when I edit the video, when I revise the edited video and so on. It was enough for me to see these photos once, and it's safe to say that I won't be able to unsee them. So if you do want to see the photos you can do so by looking them up on Google, but I need to warn you that I think once you see them they will always be at the back of your mind, because the photos contain the actual bodies of the victims. So fair warning, you know, if you do want to see them you can Google them up, but I would recommend you don't see them. And before I get into all of the details, I just want to say that my heart really goes out to all of the victims and victims' families, and I can't imagine what the families must be feeling at this horrific tragedy. You leave your babies at daycare expecting to pick them up as usual, seeing them running to embrace you, just to be hit with devastating news of your baby's death in a place where they were supposed to be safe. It's truly horrific and heartbreaking. The gun and knife attack on the Young Children's Development Center in Utai Sawan was Thailand's deadliest mass killing, and it robbed the small farming community of much of its youngest generation. The Young Children's Development Center is located in Nong Bua Lampu province's Utai Sawan, Naklang district, a pink one-story building surrounded by a lawn and small palm trees. It's located approximately 540 kilometers, around 335 miles northeast of Bangkok. The small community, nestled among rice paddies in one of the nation's poorest regions, but a region which is peaceful and quiet, not known for violence. The age range of children at the daycare center is from 2 to 5 years old, and the center usually caters to around 92 children, but because of rain and bad weather and also the shared school bus breaking down, on 6th of October 2022, just a couple of days ago, only 24 children managed to be dropped off at nursery. The class of 11 children, all around 3 years old, had been busy drawing and writing, and at around 10 a.m. teachers sent photo updates to all of the parents of the smiling, happy children having fun. At 11:24, however, just over an hour later, an ex-police officer drives out of his home in Banta Utai. At 12:50 p.m. he arrives at the nursery. And this is when all hell breaks loose. Nanicha Panchum, the head teacher, sent all the children for their afternoon nap, and whilst they were sleeping, she went about getting some lunch ready for them for when they wake up. All the children were sleeping in one room. The children were left under the supervision of 6 babysitters. That's when the head teacher heard what seemed like 5 gunshots. Nanica had no idea what to do next. This just didn't happen in their small town. Mass killings in Thailand are rare, unlike other parts of the world. However, they are not quite unheard of. But, needless to say, they are rare. In 2020, a frustrated soldier opened fire in and around the mall in the northeastern city of Nakhon Ratchasima, killing 29 people and holding off security forces for 16 hours before being killed by them. Before that, a 2015 bombing at a shrine in Bangkok left 20 people dead. It was allegedly carried out by human in retaliation for a crackdown on their network. Going back to the preschool, the daycare, one of the teachers at the preschool recognized the attacker as being the parent of a child at the center. However, his child didn't attend the center for at least 1 month. The father never came across as unwell or weird. He was always polite when he dropped off his son, and he was even quite chatty. But on Thursday, the 6th of October, the teacher said that one of her colleagues told her that this man's eyes were crossed and he was quiet, which was unusual for him as he would usually be even too chatty. The ex-police officer shoots a father and a child outside of the nursery. He then goes inside the nursery where the children are napping. He kills 23 children, 2 babysitters, and 1 sub-district administration organization staff member. When the gunshots were heard, the teachers were trying to lock the door of the daycare, but this man broke in and went into the rooms where the children were sleeping. Some of the staff members had been eating outside when the attacker parked his car, and he proceeded to shoot 4 of them dead. He then smashed down the door with his leg and went inside the center. He began attacking the children. One teacher locked the door and tried to get help before the killer, armed with a gun and a knife, shot his way in and attacked the sleeping children. The teacher heard the sound of gunshots, but it sounded quite similar to firecrackers or fireworks, so she didn't really realize what was going on until she saw 2 of her colleagues lying on the floor before seeing the attacker walking towards her. She told the other colleagues to get into a room and locked the door before climbing out over a wall to get help. But with tears in her eyes, the teacher said she didn't make it in time to save the victims. In total, 4 teachers climbed the daycare fence to escape and call police to ask for help. But by the time they returned, the children were dead. The attacker first shot dead 4 members of staff, including an 8-month pregnant teacher. Children as young as 2 years old were among the victims of the attack. Satita, one of the teachers, said that the center usually has around 70 to 80 children, but there were fewer at the time of the attack because the semester had ended for the older children and rain prevented a school bus from operating. They wouldn't have survived, she said. According to police, 19 boys, 3 girls and 2 adults were killed in the building before the gunman fled. A few children survived, but not a lot of details have been released. A teacher who managed to escape described the knife as like one for cutting grass. It was curved. After he fled, the gunman continued to shoot from his car, hitting several people. At 2 p.m., Nong Bua Lampu police posts an alert on social media for the gunman as by this point he's on the run. The gunman heads home with the police car chasing him, hitting a motorcycle, and then he starts shooting at pedestrians, killing 7. In Bantai Utai Nuea, he hits and kills 2 pedestrians. 31-year-old Pawina Purichan was riding her motorcycle to the shop when she encountered the killer trying to ram other drivers as he fled the scene in a truck. He wanted to crash into others on the road. He rammed a motorbike and 2 people got injured. Pawina sped off to get away from him, but she remembers blood just about everywhere. The attacker had killed 2 pedestrians. The attacker was armed with a shotgun, pistol and a knife as well. The main weapon used was a 9mm pistol that he had purchased himself legally. He was in a manic state. Police named the attacker as Pania Kamrab, a police lieutenant colonel who had been dismissed from the force for drug use. He was described as being agitated before the attack and opened fire after being unable to find his own child at the daycare center. National Police Chief Damrogsak Kittiprapas said that the 34-year-old Pania Kamrab was suspended from the police force in January and he was sacked in June for possession of amphetamine, a drug that flooded the region in recent years. He was facing trial on a drugs charge. He had been in court earlier on the day of the attack for a court hearing on the charge of use and also possible trade in amphetamine, and then went to the childcare center to collect his child, but the attacker's son hadn't been to the daycare center because he was sick. In fact, he hasn't been to the daycare center for 1 month. The verdict for his trial was scheduled to be delivered on Friday, the following day after the attack. After the deadly rampage at the childcare facility in Nong Bua Lampu province, Pania, the attacker, arrives home. At 2:30 p.m. he is cornered by police who try to negotiate with him. He sets fire to his car, a white four-door Toyota pickup truck with Bangkok registration plates, and then he shoots dead his wife and 3-year-old son before fatally shooting himself. At 2:50 p.m. the local time, all of the times I'm referring to them as the local times, police confirm that the shooter killed himself. At 3:30 p.m. Nong Bua Lampu Hospital says that it urgently needs blood donations. By this point, the whole community knows what happened and people flood the corridors of the hospital to donate blood. In one of the world's worst child death tolls in a massacre by a single killer in recent history, most of the children who died at the daycare center in Utai Sawan were stabbed to death. Pania was struggling with marital and debt issues following his suspension. He was in debt and he also had a drug addiction problem. He wanted to vent. According to his mother, on the day of the attack, he had been arguing with his wife. His mother also said that she has no idea why he did what he did, but he was under a lot of pressure. His colleagues in the local police force said that he was sometimes quite bad-tempered and violent while he was working there. When Pania was dismissed from the police force in January, he had been arrested for possession of yaba, also known as biker's coffee, and kamikaze, which are actually tablets containing a mixture of methamphetamine and caffeine. These tablets were originally given to horses when pulling carts up steep hills and for other strenuous work. Before being dismissed in January, Pania had been reprimanded by his supervisors for repeated use of the drug. He admitted to having used the yaba for a long time and sometimes even had hundreds of pills in his possession. He joined the Royal Thai Police in May 2012 and was moved to the Nawang police station in Nong Bua Lampu province in June 2019. He worked there until his dismissal from the police force. Former colleagues blamed his drug use for his frequent mood swings. He often disobeyed his supervisors at work. Once, he even drew his pistol to show his displeasure at a bank manager who complained after he was found sleeping in a police car parked outside the bank instead of guarding officials stocking banknotes in ATMs. 1 year ago, Pania allegedly began arguing with his wife and he was allegedly involved in a relationship with a karaoke worker named Ying, whose former boyfriend was a suspected drug dealer. Pania's neighbor at the police housing complained about his noisy behavior while partying at night. In July last year, he verbally and physically attacked a neighbor who confronted him about the noise. The incident led to a reprimand for Pania and he was placed on parole. Pania once confessed to his superintendent at the police station that he began drugs while studying at a secondary school. He promised his boss not to get involved with drugs again, but he failed to keep his word. A teacher at the daycare who didn't want to be named said that the attacker got out of the car and immediately shot a man eating lunch outside, then fired more shots. When he paused to reload, the teacher had an opportunity to run inside, She ran into the back where the children were asleep. They were 2 or 3 years old. Another witness, who didn't want to be named, said that staff at the daycare center had locked the door, but the gunman shot his way in. The teacher who died, she had a child in her arms. The witness didn't think that the attacker would kill children, but he shot at the door and shot right through it. Thai media reported that autopsy results indicated Pania had not taken drugs in the 72 hours prior to his death. Manirat Tanonetong, whose 3-year-old son, Chayot Kijarion, was killed at the center, said that she's trying not to think about any kind of horrible images, but instead focus on how lovely he was. Another of the victims, 3-year-old Atibodin Silumtai, nicknamed Asia, loved cycling and was allowed to ride his bike inside his house. His great-aunt Kampong Silumtai described him as too young and too innocent to die, having gone just too soon. Kampong had raised Asia because his father is an agricultural worker in Israel. She was there at his birth and decided with his mother that he should be nicknamed Asia because Thailand was part of the continent. His cousin Asian was born in the same month and went to the same daycare center. Unfortunately, he as well lost his life. Asia loved telling his great aunt about his friends and teacher at the daycare, which he had just joined in May. He called his great aunt Grandma and would sometimes call her Fatty for a laugh. Kampong says that she lost someone who always talked to her. She would hug him and kiss him every morning and every evening, and now he's just gone. At the temple where the funerals for the children were held, Asia's favorite dog was there, watching over his best friend Asia. Kampung placed Asia's favorite foods and beverage near his coffin. He loved grilled pork and sticky rice, clear soup with pork, and he also loved orange juice. Now his favorite foods with him forever. Lying several coffins away was 4-year-old Tawachai Shripu, also known as Dean. He loved matchbox cars. His mother, 29-year-old Malisa Yotkao, who is 8 months pregnant, said that Dean wanted a baby brother so they could play together. Malisa bought her son a bicycle and a remote control car along with some other toy cars, new things that he had always wanted. She also placed toy figures of Spider-Man and Hulk on top of the coffin. We won't take them back home because they will be cremated with him, she said. Dean was a lovely and happy child who loved to sing along with Ew Lampad, a catchy Thai pop tune that went viral on TikTok for the videos of children flossing and twerking. Malisa hopes that his teacher, who was 8 months pregnant and also killed by the gunman, will guide Dean and take care of him in heaven. The last time that Malisa saw her son was when she dropped him off at the daycare center on Thursday morning. He took his shoes off and turned around to wave goodbye to her. He had never done that before. 51-year-old Oi Yotkao can't accept what happened to Dean. She's very worried about Dean's siblings, especially because as a family of rice farmers, they were all very close, with 3 generations living under one roof. 28-year-old Seksan Sriraj, whose pregnant wife Supapon Pramongmuk was due to give birth this month and who worked at the daycare, is also left devastated, but he says that his wife and child have gone to a peaceful place and he needs to go on. Otherwise, his wife and child will be worried about him and they won't be reborn in the next life. Supaporn's mourning husband shared a heartbreaking post on social media paying tribute to his wife. Saxon wrote, "My wife has fulfilled her every duty as a teacher. Please be a teacher in heaven, and my child, please take care of your mother in heaven." A photo of another attack victim, Siriprapa Praserchuk, nicknamed Plaifon, sits on top of her coffin inside the Wat Rat Samaki temple. In Thai, her nickname Plaifon means the end of the rainy season, usually a time of happiness. And then, in one horrible burst of violence, the happiness that the chubby-cheeked 4-year-old had symbolized for her adoring family was shattered. In its place, is an unfathomable agony over what happened to Plyphon. 28-year-old Tukta Wongsila, her mother, remembers how Plyphon, each time when she woke up, she would say, "I love you, mommy and daddy and brother." Tukta and her family live in Utai Sawan, the rural community in one of the country's poorest regions not far from the Laos border. Like many residents, they have long struggled to pay the bills. Tukta and her husband work on the family's rice farm during the growing season, making around $2,600 a year if they are lucky. They take odd jobs on their free days to earn some extra money. The couple and their children share a house with Tukta's mother-in-law and bedridden father-in-law. Moving to a bigger city for better jobs has been impossible because of their need to care for their young children and their aging parents. Plyphon was the eldest of Tukta's two children, 3 years older than her baby brother. She was tiny with black hair and plump cheeks that pulled up into a radiant smile. It was a smile her grandmother, 62-year-old Pandal Ponsora, already missed. She was such a good girl. On Thursday, Plyphon went to the Young Children's Development Center where the walls are adorned with cheerful pictures of flowers and butterflies. But on Friday, as her mother Tukta waited for her daughter's body, she found herself contemplating the horror Plyphon must have endured in her final moments. "I want to see my daughter to see what she looked like," she said. "I don't know how much pain he inflicted on her. Even if she was asleep, she must have felt the pain. I don't know what took her life. I just want to see her face." Tukta finally would, hours later, at a nearby Buddhist temple where loved ones of the dead had gathered to receive the bodies. Tukta walked into the temple alongside her husband and mother-in-law. When they came back out, Tukta's husband just collapsed. He had to be taken to the hospital. Tukta cried and reached for her father's arms, saying that Plyphon's eyes had been wide open. Families who emerged from the temple spoke of seeing massive cuts on their children. Many screamed and some even fainted. So many families devastated, a whole community in shock. Victims' families, friends, locals, everyone gathered at the nursery after hearing the devastating news, and then at the temple where the children were prepared for the funerals. Even though we don't know the names of all of the victims, one thing is clear: everyone is in mourning.
หนูเสียใจกับทางครอบครัวแล้วก็เสียใจกับญาติๆของน้องๆเขาด้วยแล้วแบบเหมือนน้องเขาแบบยังไม่ต้องมันยังไม่ถึงวัยที่ต้องมาเจออะไรอย่างเงี้ยหนูก็เลยแบบโอ๊ยมันสะเทือนใจนะพี่แต่หนูก็รู้สึกว่าคนที่เขาทำเขาว่าแบบ เขาก็ทำไม่ถูกเขาแบบว่าเขาไม่สมควรมาลงที่เด็กอะไรอย่างเงี้ยมันไม่ใช่ความผิดของเด็กเลยที่ต้องมารับอะไรอย่างเงี้ยค่ะมาตรการป้องกันแบบเนี้ยรู้สึกมันเป็นไปได้ยากเขาแบบว่าเราไม่รู้ว่าคนที่จะมาก่อเหตุเขาจะมาทำกันวันไหนหรือว่าเขาจะมาเขาเรียกอะไรจะมาก่อเหตุหรือว่ามาทำอะไรกันอย่างเงี้ยตอนไหนคะหรือว่ามันเป็นไปได้ยากอะค่ะ
ก็รู้สึกสะเทือนใจอะค่ะพี่คือเด็กเล็กๆอะค่ะคือเขาไม่น่าจะมาเจอกับเรื่องแบบนี้และอย่างบางคนอะคือเขายังนอนกลางวันกันอยู่อย่างเงี้ยเราก็รู้สึกแบบสะเทือนใจอะค่ะสงสารคุณพ่อคุณแม่เขาด้วยอะ
มันไม่น่าเกิดกับประเทศไทยเลย และผมคิดว่ากฎหมายควรจะรุนแรงกว่านี้
อยากให้ปราบปรามยาเสพติดให้หมดไปจากประเทศไทย ถ้ามีอีกมันก็เป็นอย่างนี้อีก จะหลอนกันเยอะกว่านี้
58-year-old Sommai Pitfai collapsed when she saw the body of her 3-year-old niece. She looked at her niece and saw her face being slashed with a knife. Another victim's family, Sitipong Tawong, comforts his wife Kanjana Buakman as she holds their child's milk bottle and blanket while standing outside the nursery on October the 7th, 2022. Portraits of victims could be seen sitting on coffins at Wat Siutai Temple. Noprom Kot Pratum and Bontum Piamul hold up pictures of their grandson Tanakorn Karadi. Among the victims were also 3-year-old twins Werapat and Werapon Nuatkao. Placed around each coffin were items to carry the young children into the afterlife. A Spider-Man outfit, a plush kitty, juice boxes, grilled pork and toy trucks. Many of them. The youngest victim killed at the Child Development Center was only 2 years old. Monks were handing out saffron robes and envelopes with money to the relatives of the victims. Prime Minister Prayut Chan-o-cha also offered compensation to the families of the victims. People all over the community and Buddhist monks gathered at the hospital to donate blood for those victims who maybe had a chance to survive. Following autopsies at the Udon Thani hospital in Udon Thani, a line of ambulances carried the bodies of the victims back to their families who were waiting in Utai Sawan on Friday, October the 7th. Outside the temple on Saturday, October the 8th, police officers were seen taking statements about the massacre. The funerals of the victims had to be split across 3 temples. Monks from neighboring provinces traveled to the town to help with the funeral rites.
หารือกันโดยเป็นกรณีพิเศษแบบเร่งด่วนเพราะว่าได้เกิดเหตุที่มีผู้เสียชีวิตเป็นจำนวนมากพร้อมๆกันการที่เราจะไปทำชาปนกิจบนเมนตามปกตินี้ก็คือมันไม่ได้ว่าจำนวนศพเยอะก็เลยมาคิดกันว่าทำเป็นเมนฉุกเฉินขึ้นมาเป็นเหมือนกับเมนฉุกเฉินขึ้นมาเป็นเชิงตะกอนหลักก็คล้ายๆกับโบราณเขาก็จะทำการเผาโดยที่ไม่ได้มีเมนอะไรอยู่
Thailand is a majority Buddhist country where the faithful believe that making merits or doing good deeds is essential for the deceased to live well in the afterlife. Funerals are often carried out with that goal in mind. In the north, they can be colorful affairs with coffins placed on a float decorated with lights and flowers, what the Thais call a castle for the afterlife, and then paraded through the streets to the cremation site. Keeping the spirits happy is extremely important in a country where the belief in the supernatural dominates. At the funerals on Saturday afternoon, a long line of people came to pay their respects to the little children. They poured water from a silver cup into a large silver bowl that was placed in front of the children's coffins, marking the first ritual in a Thai Buddhist funeral called the bathing ceremony. Usually the ceremony involves having relatives pour scented water over the deceased's right hand and then placing the hands on the chest. By doing this, the Buddhists believe a loved one can help cleanse the body and ask for forgiveness. Then, white string is tied around the wrists and ankles of the deceased. The monks take the ends of the string that is placed over the coffin, a symbol connecting the monks to the dead, and chant Buddhist prayers. The bathing ceremony is a tradition that had been done and passed on, said Pra Vinay Suntaro, a monk who came to help with the rites on Saturday. It is the same as when you go to bed, you need to clean yourself off. Then you change your clothes. It's a belief that when someone leaves to go to the next world, they need to clean and change into new clothes. Mourners poured a silver cup of water into a bowl as part of a modified purification ritual. Normally, scented water would be poured over the deceased's right hand, but the coffins were closed on Saturday. Pra Vinay traveled to Utai Sawan from nearby Loei province to see if he could help the monks out. He has carried out several rites for young children who died by drowning or in accidents, but never anything like this. The body of the gunman, Pania Kamrab, was cremated in Udon Thani, roughly 90 minutes away by car, on Saturday after no temple in the Nong Bua Lumpu province was willing to carry out his last rites. Maha Bonho Sukamo, the abbot of the Sri Utai temple, said on Friday that they won't take the body of the gunman because the two communities have a resolution that he was vile. The families didn't want the body of such a person among their loved ones. Buddhist funeral rites and prayers for the victims were taking place at several temples in the town to mark the start of 3 days of mourning. This small rural town in northeastern Thailand is trying to support the anguished families in their grief, but many are also asking about the widespread availability of deadly weapons and the country's pervasive problem with drugs. Parents are asking where is a safe place for their children. Gun laws are strict in Thailand, where possession of an illegal firearm carries a prison sentence of up to 10 years, but ownership is also high. Compared with some other countries in Southeast Asia, illegal weapons, many brought in from strife-torn neighboring countries, are quite common. There were more than 10.3 million civilian-owned firearms in Thailand, or around 15 guns for every 100 people, according to 2017 data from the Switzerland-based Small Arms Survey. Approximately 6.2 million of those guns are legally registered. Thailand ranks as the Southeast Asian country with the second highest gun homicides after the Philippines, according to the Institute for Health Metrics and Evaluation at the University of Washington's 2019 Global Burden of Disease database. As for drugs, more than 1 billion methamphetamine tablets were seized in East and Southeast Asia in 2021, 7 times higher than 10 years ago. Analysts say cartels whose production is centered in Southeast Asia's Golden Triangle along the borders between Thailand, Myanmar and Laos continue despite police raids. A recent UN report said that the price of tablet and crystal methamphetamine had fallen to all-time lows due to a surge in supply. According to local reports, a tablet costs 10 baht, the equivalent of 24p. For wholesale, about the same as a bottle of water. The street price for the pills is between 20 and 25 baht. King Maha Vajiralongkorn and Queen Sutida visited hospitals where 7 of the 10 people wounded were being treated, and also met with family members of the victims. The number of fatalities is at least 38 people, including 23 children. Some of the children were as young as 2 years old. One of the youngest survivors is a 3-year-old boy who was riding a tricycle close to his mother and grandmother when the attacker began slashing them with a knife. The mother died from her wounds and the boy and grandmother were being treated at hospitals. A number of fatalities were care center staff, including some killed as they were having lunch outside the nursery, and others who tried to lock the men out. Other adults and at least one of the children were killed as the attacker fled from the scene. At least 12 people have been wounded. In total, there were 51 killed and injured. Satita, one of the 4 teachers who jumped the fence trying to get help, said that one child who was covered by a blanket by a miracle survived the attack, apparently because the attacker assumed that the little girl was dead. He murdered all of Emmy's friends as they slept. It's unclear how Emmy survived. She was found awake, curled up next to the bodies of her classmates. She had no idea what was happening when she woke up. Her 59-year-old grandfather, Somsak Shritong, would say that Emmy believed her friends were still asleep. At the scene, a police officer covered her face with a cloth and carried her away from the bloody scene. Rescuers took Emmy to the 2nd floor of the daycare to shield her from the horror. They then looked through the other 2 classes, desperately hoping to find others alive. Emmy is the only child to live through the massacre in Nong Bua Lampu on Thursday, 6th of October 2022. In total, 37 people died, including the wife and stepson of the attacker, and 24 of the dead are children. Emmy's grandfather feels very grateful that she survived. He held her so tight when he first saw her. Emmy's mother, 35-year-old Panompai Sritong, works in Bangkok during the week. She had been told that all of the children at the center had died and needed to be convinced that her daughter was still alive. When she finally got a video call with Emmy, she was filled with relief. This small town is filled with grieving families, and for the first few days, Emmy's grandparents struggled to know what to tell her. Emmy loves playing in the garden in her favorite Hello Kitty Wellington boots, but she keeps asking about her best friend, 3-year-old Pataraut, who was also known as Taking. They also napped together at the nursery with their feet touching. She also loved the daycare center and wanted to be just like her teachers. Emmy's grandmother finally told her that her school friends had all died, along with her teacher, and the daycare center is closed. But Emmy just wants to go to school every day. Her family have to keep telling her the school is closed down, but she's too young to understand the concept of death.
กำลังยัดลูกหนูยกมือไหว้มันหนูไม่รู้จะทำยังไง
ใช่ไหมได้ยกมือไหว้เขาอยู่
เพราะว่าเขาเป็นผู้ปกครองเด็กหรือว่าเขามารับน้อง
ทีแรกหนูคิดว่าที่เขาดังหนูคิดว่าน้องคนที่ตายน่ะเล่นประทัด
ครับ
พูดอะไรบ้างไหมไม่ได้พูดเลยอ่ะ
แล้วเด็กเขาหลับอยู่ใช่ไหม
เด็กนอนหลับ
มันไม่พูดขนาดหนูตกใจ
ดูเข้ามาแล้วมันก็เอาเท้าอ่ะถีบกระจกอ่ะแล้วมันก็จะเข้าไปพอมันยิงประตูแล้วคิดว่ามันจะเข้าไปแล้วก็เลยวิ่งไปแอบอยู่หลังครัวแต่ว่ามันคือมันตกใจทำอะไรไม่ถูกไม่รู้จะบอกน้องที่เขาอยู่
อะไรเป็นลางบอกเหตุ
ขณะเกิดเหตุ
คิดว่ามันจะเข้าไปสิ
This is truly horrific and heartbreaking. I can't imagine what these families are going through. The survivor, Emmy, will most definitely need therapy, extensive therapy to get through this. We still don't know the motive behind this massacre, as he killed himself and left no note, no explanation, which I think makes it even worse for the families of the victims, as they will never truly have full closure, because I think at the back of their mind will forever be the question of why. I can only speculate, but of course this is no confirmation. I believe that it might be possible he was separated from his wife. Remember that he had an argument with her on the day of the attack. 1 year previously, he was allegedly having an affair. On the morning of the attack, he also attended court. The reason why I'm saying that he was separated is because his son hasn't been to the nursery for 1 month before the day that he went looking for him at the nursery. If he would live together with his wife, surely then he would know that his son is not at the nursery, which makes me kind of think that perhaps they were separated, not living together anymore. Remember that the staff members knew him, as he would always drop off his son at nursery, but his son hasn't been there for 1 month, so maybe the attacker believed that his wife dropped his son off at nursery on the day of the attack. And honestly, I don't think that I should be referring to him as his son, because first of all, he was his stepson, and second of all, he doesn't deserve being referenced as the father. But honestly, I don't think that we will ever truthfully know why he did what he did. Why did he have to take it out on innocent babies? It's just heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking. Let's remember the victims. Thank you guys so much for watching today's case. I know that this has been really hard to go through and sit and watch, but I think that the victims deserve their story to be told. Again, thank you so much for watching. If you are interested in any of the makeup that I used in today's video, all of the products will be linked in the description down below. Also, I do take case suggestions. If there is any particular case that you want me to cover, just leave the case name or the victim's name or whatever information you have in the comments down under this video. Thank you so much for watching. Take care, stay safe, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!